Live broadcast in 3, 2, 1. We shall continue the special joint meeting. Please invite to the room the candidate to the judge's position at the Hague, Romanenko Petro Valeriiovych.
Добрий день, сідайте, будь ласка.
Good afternoon. Please sit down.
Розглядається питання щодо відповідності
We shall consider the issue of compliance of Romanenko Petro Valeriiovych, the candidate to the judge's position at the Hague, as per Part 4 of Article 8, and the members of the Commission are present in the room. The names follow. The High Qualification Commission of Judges are also present. The names follow.
Руслан Мельник, Олексій Мілян, Роман Сабадаш, Руслан Сидорович, Сергій Чумак, Галина Шевчук. Петро Валерійович, зрозуміли вам склад комісії?
Petro, is the composition of the commission clear to you? Please press the button. Yes, it is clear. Now, your rights are, you may announce, require recusals, you can provide answers, objections, you can appeal the decision of the commission according to the law. No new materials are being considered in this session, apart from those that the candidate has provided within the deadline. In case the new materials can significantly impact the status of the candidate, then they can be considered with the consent of at least 3 members of the commission. Are your rights clear to you? Do you have recusals or motions? No, I don't. Please try to abide by the rules of procedure stipulated in front of you on a memo. And we can transition to the report. By the QCJ decision, as of June 3rd, 2025, 3 vacancies for judge's position in The Hague were announced. Petro Romanenko submitted documents to participate in the competition, and he was eligible according to the law on judges and the justice system in Ukraine. In September 2025, qualification test was scheduled, and the decision of February 2026 of the High Qualification Commission of Judges, the exam score was published, and Petro Romanenko was allowed to go through the interview. Petro Romanenko obtained a degree in law, higher education in the Dnipropetrovsk National University. He worked as a legal counsel from 2003 to 2004 at the financial construction company Dnipro Invest Bud. From February 2004 to December 2004, he worked as a lawyer at the private enterprise Teralex. From February 2005 to August 2010, He worked as a legal counsel at LLC Dniproyum from February 2012 to November 2022. He worked as an attorney.
По 16.04.25 працював помічником начальника ТЦК
And
та СП з правовою роботою
from October 2024 to 2025, he worked as the assistant for the legal work to the head of the Samaryev District Territorial Center for Recruitment and Social Support, and until now, he has held the position of the assistant for the legal work at the Samaryev District Territorial Center for Recruitment. In 2006, he got his attorney license issued by Dnipropetrovsk Oblast Bar. The candidate provided an integrity declaration, and during the competition, the Commission sent requests to different state bodies and got responses. Are the facts correct in this report? Mostly yes. Also from 2012 to 2022, I was an entrepreneur, and I practiced law as a self-employed person, and I provided proofs about that. Okay, thank you. We will consider this too. And now over to the chair of PCIE, Robert Brookhuizen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. I hope you don't mind if I call you Petro. Is that okay? My name is Robert Brookhuizen. I'm a lawyer from the Netherlands, and I'm the rapporteur in your case. And my first question for you is, you have been watching, I guess, other interviews that we have been doing, or have you done that, or have you not done that? Did you prepare yourself by watching our interviews?
Thank you. Good morning. In fact, no, unfortunately, no, I didn't have free time to do that. I haven't watched any interview.
Okay. Well, the first question then to you is whether you can briefly explain why you want to become a Hague judge, and also that based on your background and experience, you are qualified to become a Hague judge. Can you please explain that? And maybe a bit short in your answer.
Thank you. Probably I will answer the second part of the question. Only practice will show whether I am qualified sufficiently to hold this position, but I'm a good learner, and I think any legal work is based on the same principles. I have never been a judge, so I cannot say whether I will be sufficiently prepared. If I am sufficiently prepared and qualified, it can only be tested and tried in practice. And I think it is something that can be learned as you go along. And regarding the first part of the question, it's hard for me to answer the question why I decided so, what was my motivation. In the first place, it is interesting. This is a unique court, and there are no other courts like this. It has a very specialized area, very specific area, and I'm enthusiastic about working in this area. So this is my main motivation. What I can say, I submitted my documents to the local court judge's position, and I substantiated my motivation there too. But somehow I was focused on the competition to the local court. And then all of a sudden, when I was checking the news, whether exams have been scheduled, I learned that I needed to go to Kiev the following day in order to sit my exam. And then I learned about this competition to the Hague judge's position. And this is why I'm here. Petro Valeriiovych, please be more laconic when answering questions. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, when I'm listening to you, I'm wondering whether, let's say, to have a motivation to be part of, let's say, an anti-corruption court is sufficient motivation, because of course you will understand that the High Anti-Corruption Court is an essential court for the future of Ukraine, because let's say all the partners of Ukraine are looking at Ukraine whether they have their anti-corruption laws in order. And it also makes that it is important that in this court there are judges who have the background and the knowledge to take the responsibility to be a judge in this court. And so therefore, I would like you to explain that if you are added to this court as a judge, that this would work and you would have the suitable background and knowledge to do this important work.
I believe yes.
Okay. We have asked you some questions, as you know, and you have given answers to those questions. And because this is a public and open hearing, sometimes we have to repeat what is asked from you and what your questions were. And in your questions, you have explained that you feel that the experience you have in the military service is very, very beneficial for if you would become a Hague judge. And you say in your answers that the military service allowed you to see from the inside how people operate and how they make decisions and what they do and what they don't do. And that for that reason you are able to determine the actions that are subject to the consideration of the High Anti-Corruption Court. Can you maybe please explain so that we understand why this experience that you are able to observe people would be helpful for the position of a judge in the High Anti-Corruption Court?
This experience is pretty beneficial in my Hague judges practice because the military service exposes human relationship, and people are more sincere, and others display their negative qualities more. And there is a very high contrast between different people in the military service. So I'm connected with the military organization, which provoked resonance within society because of anti-corruption cases. And the military can also be a weak spot in the public system in terms of corruption. When we take a particular case, when I take a particular case as the Hague judge, I will have more insight. I will have more understanding of whether events really happened or not. We will have witnesses that we will hear. And I know what kind of questions to ask them in order to really understand whether something took place or not. I know which questions to ask them.
The point is that if I listen to you, having worked in corruption a long time, I would say that to know what answers to ask a defendant in a corruption case, primarily you need to know the law, and you need to have experience about how a criminal investigation goes. Would you not agree with me that this is essential for being a judge in a high anti-corruption court?
Будь ласка, уточніть своє питання.
Could you make your question more precise? I did not quite get it.
Well, my question was that you said that, let's say, your experience, as you had just explained, would be helpful to ask the questions of a defendant in a corruption case, that you would be judging as a judge in the high anti-corruption court. And my question was, before you're able to ask the correct question or a good question to a defendant in a corruption case, that you need to have the knowledge about the law that applies to the specific case. And you would have some experience to know what kind of questions would be essential to ask a defendant in such a case. So much more than, let's say, experience in life, knowledge about the law, and understanding of the process.
Я з вами повністю згоден, що професійний
I
досвід
completely
звичайно
agree
переможе, але
with you
цей
that professional experience
досвід, він
outweighs
з професійним
life
безпосередньо
experience.
пов'язаний, по-перше.
But my life experience has to do with my professional
Законодавство
experience,
це безумовно
first
перше,
thing.
що потрібно.
And second thing,
Бо суддя
of course,
застосовується
judicial
законодавство.
knowledge and knowledge of the legislation is primordial. I have worked as an attorney for many years, but we also as attorneys need to understand how things will look in the court, how the court, the judge will interpret that. And of course, we need to do pre-trial, we need to know legislation in order to be able to decide on matters in the court. In any case, whenever the court hears a case or a group of judges does it, the judge makes use of their internal conviction as per the procedural rules of procedure, because the guilt must be proved beyond reasonable doubt. Of course, legislation, investigation are essential elements, but also the judge is guided by their own internal belief within the limits of the rules of procedure.
Am I correct to understand that when you were an attorney, that you have said to us that you had had one corruption case that you handled for a colleague? And that this is in fact the one case you have done that's connected to corruption.
Мабуть, мене неправильно зрозуміли. Я не стверджував,
I
що
may have been misunderstood. I didn't say I had won a corruption case. The question was whether I had experience of dealing with such cases. I only had one such case as an attorney. I didn't participate in the court hearing, in court proceedings, because I think that case was closed due to statutory limitations. I defended a colleague of mine who had been arrested and had been charged and received charges of corruption, illegal enrichment. And we came up with a preventive measure for him.
Thank you. We have noted that in your application form, you have informed us that you have run for a, let's say, I understand, political position in the Novomokovsk, sorry for the pronunciation, Council of Dnipro-Petrovsk region. That's correct, right? That you ran for a position in the city council, I believe it was.
Скажу чесно, мене друзі
I will
попросили.
be honest, my friends asked me to do that, to run in this competition with them. Personally,
Я б сам би цього не став робити. Це було так, але
yes, it happened, but I didn't do it out of my own will. I relied on my friends asking me to do so more.
Okay, and is it correct to understand that you ran for a party, Nova Politica? Yes? Do I say that correctly? Yes?
Yes, right.
You know, of course, that being a judge in The Hague means that you should not have any political affiliation because you need to be completely independent. Can you explain that even though you have been seeking a political position for a party, you are still political independent?
В жодному разі. Я не був ніколи членом цієї або будь-якої іншої
I was by no means a member of any political party. I will say it again. My town is a small one. My friends ran for this position. They wanted to form a party in the local council. I am quite known in my town, and they asked me to join them in this member of council group in order to govern the town better. I'm politically neutral. I don't have any affiliations or any sympathies with any political party.
But does this mean that when you were running for this position, you did not have any, let's say, positive feeling about the political ideas of this party, Nova Politica?
У мене була єдина мотивація.
Well, I had an inherent motivation to take part in something to make a difference for my own town.
In 2013, your wife acquired ownership of a house in the city of Samar and a land plot under it for a total price of 129,000 hryvnia. Could you please explain the sources of income to cover the purchase of that house? Short, briefly, please.
My wife, before our marriage, had some savings. I had some savings. Our relatives gifted us some money for our wedding, and we had been also working. That was the main source of income. I think that I provided you also bank receipts and bank records from my bank account as a private entrepreneur for the 2013-2014. You can see income sources there. There were no other income sources used for it. Also, I would like to mention that the agreements on sale and purchase of the house and land plots, it was mentioned, the notary mentioned it, and I think I provided you with a copy of those agreements, that both the house and the land plot were purchased at our own joint money. But we have agreed with her that she was registered as a buyer in that agreement because it helped us to reduce the notarial fee. And the more participants of the process we had, the more we should have paid as a notary fee. And anyway, we had there already 4 sellers because from their side, from the side of the sellers, it was inheritance process. That's why it already took a lot of participants to the process.
And I understand it was a very old house where lots of maintenance need to be done. Huh?
Yeah, generally speaking, yes. That house was in very bad condition. So I can show you some photos. The floor should have been replaced, and windows, that's what the first we replaced because windows were just scattering on the ground.
We asked you about this house, and you will recall that. And when I read your answers on our questions, I feel that you were upset when we asked this question to you. That we should not have asked the question as PCIe, how you got the money to buy this house. You say in your answers that, yes, suddenly you are asked the question where the money comes from while you bought an abandoned semi-residential house in a small town with your last money. It sounds as if you found it unfair that we were asking you the question. You remember what you answered to us. I will not read it completely, but...
Yeah, I remember this answer, but I was upset with the question why I asked for compensation of moral damage from the city council. I was not upset with this question about the house.
Okay, but if I read the answer about the house, as I read it, you say, why do you ask me the question while I am someone who doesn't do anything wrong, and I spent any penny I have on this very old house? And there are not so many people in Ukraine who do this, because many people of Ukraine have enriched themselves illegally, and I don't. And then you start asking me this question. That's how I have interpreted your answer. And the question I have is, do you understand why we have this procedure here and why we are asking this question?
Yeah, I fully understand that first of all, you need to check candidates for positions of judges of the higher anti-corruption court, specifically in relation to the financial integrity, because corruption is about finance, it's about illegal embezzlement, and so on. So you need to check potential illegal embezzlement of candidates. Of course, I fully understand it.
So why did you react and so upset when we asked you a question about your money? Because if you become a member of the High Anti-Corruption Court, you will not be asking anything else than similar kind of question.
I was upset with the question how to formulate it correctly. I was upset with the question specifically related to the moral damage. So where I reply to questions regarding the house, I'm calm in informing you about all circumstances that I'm asked about. I provide you with all the information that I stored, but that part was at the end of my answer. So the case which you asked me, so why did I claim that compensation of that moral damage? At that moment, they tried to accuse us that we tried to embezzle, to get some embezzlement, to get some privileges and so on. But actually, in the reality, some people, and along with me, we tried to stop certain barbaric projects in the city. So indeed, we were acting, without any ill intention.
Because I'm coming to this moral damage thing, because otherwise no one will understand it. What I understand is that you filed at a certain moment an administrative claim against the executive committee of the Novomoskovsk City Council. And so you filed an administrative claim. And I understand this had to do with, let's say, vegetation, I guess, trees in the city. And you were not happy with the reconstruction of the Hero Square in this place. And you asked for a compensation of moral damage of 50,000 hryvnias. That's correct, huh?
Yeah, it was indicated in my statement of claim. And I would like to explain, and maybe they will understand me. Very often when the claim requirements are raised, we have the claim requirements itself and the subject or the essence that could be negotiated. So many attorneys do like this. So in a claim, we indicate what's important, what's crucial for us, and something which could be bargained, and so I wanted to have some kind of additional leverage of influence or on this executive committee. I wanted to say, let's agree on all conditions regarding changes in the project, and I will not further insist on such moral damage compensation. That's what I would like to underline. We were not talking about financial issues. This project, near I grew up near that square. I had lived there near that square. My mom has an apartment there. So for me, that's important.
Personally, as a lawyer, I don't mind that you seek damages for anything, because if the law provides you the possibility to seek damages for something, you're allowed to do that. So that's not what my question is about. My question is about that we ask you, and I will read it, about this, and ask you why you asked for compensation of moral damage. And then your answer is, for many years there has been unprecedented destruction of green spaces, trees in the settlements of Ukraine. I can talk about it for a long time, but and about the circumstances that allow the destruction of the future comfortable ecosystem for our children. So clearly, you're someone who finds, let's say, the ecosystem where you live very important. But then the answer is as follows. But the fact is that everyone doesn't care. And given the essence of the question, you are not interested in what happened there. But why I asked for money, I will not be able to reach out and explain because you don't care either. And this answer shows to me that A, you think that we have a moral idea about this. And secondly, that we ask you questions to make your life difficult. And it shows to me that you have little understanding why we are doing this process.
Я чудово розумію, чого
I
чому ви все
understand
це
perfectly well why you are doing all of that, but
давайте тоді повернемося.
let's come back then to
навіть,
integrity issues.
Ось так. Якщо закон мені
If
дозволяє
the law allows me to demand moral damages for ignoring my appeals and appeals of other citizens of our town, I cannot provide information, but there were a lot of public hearings and consultations. That was a very scandalous project, and citizens were openly ignored. By the way, that's very interesting case. I don't know what was the end of it, but unfortunately, we could not get everything that we wanted. We could not preserve what we wanted. And if we are talking about that, how that impacts the integrity or the lack of integrity. I was asking for moral damages. I raised this issue to the court. Look, I have my violated rights. There are consequences that are very unpleasant for me, and I believe that I was undergoing through moral sufferings, and I asked for moral damages, and then the court was deciding whether to do that or no. The court decided not to do that. No questions about that. And the court satisfied my other demands. The court established that to my benefit, court fees had to be recovered. I was not even recovering these court fees. That was not the issue.
I understand this. The point is that we are not the court. We are a body put in here for the benefit, I hope, of Ukraine, to select the best judges for the High Anti-Corruption Court. And we do this together with the High Qualification Commission. That's our job. So we are not against you. We are just objective foreigners asking you a question. And we cannot help that the court said, well, it will not satisfy your claim. But that happens. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. That's how the life of a lawyer is not different. But what I find difficult is that you say, in fact, you should not have asked me this question. And my next question is, how are you going to behave yourself when you are a judge in the High Anti-Corruption Court? You also have to ask questions to people that they don't like. So what will you do? Not ask those questions.
Of course, I will ask these questions. And of course, I understand that the raised question should be answered. But just this particular question, contrary to all the other questions, it was a bit painful. Painful because, in fact, maybe I just do not understand what can be here. So the case, all of these cases related to the square, they like not profit, no benefit for me. And I was doing that pro bono voluntarily, and I was preparing claims, complaints. We were doing all of that together. And probably I just do not understand where can he be the lack of my integrity when I was trying to do that through this threat of moral damages to get a decision that would be beneficial for the town. Because my answer to this question is very simple. I included that into my demands, not because I wanted to get funds, but because I wanted this way to additionally influence the respondents, that the respondent would agree to those useful changes to the reconstruction project that were mentioned, among other things, in my demands in the claim. And I was not interested at all in this amount. I was interested in getting the result regarding the project. And if the respondent said, okay, we will accept those changes, but you would withdraw your moral damages claim. And that's what actually my idea underlying this claim, and that's it.
I'm just looking at my colleagues. Jessica, you have a question? Mary? No? Okay. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Дякую, пане Роберте.
Thank you, Mr. Robert.
Я також хочу з'ясувати.
I also want to ask some questions that we and the civil society have.
Було кілька
There were several reports regarding you, but after looking for your application, I would like to say that you did not provide any references. Can you explain why, given that the consideration of cases in the anti-corruption court mostly are considered by the panel of judges? Can you work in the panel or no? Maybe I did not understand correctly this matter of references. I asked my colleagues who were also submitting their documents for participation in the competition, and they were saying that we are talking about some official letters with references from judges, for example, etc. Well, I did not want to ask any of my friends to do that. I have colleagues who could give me references, attorneys. There are judges who know me, but the deadline was very short for the submission of documents. And sorry, no matter what, even though I'm a lawyer at the military service, but that's still military services, and I have very limited free time going around and asking to give me references. What's the point of applying to this competition if you do not have the time? What's the point of applying for participation in the competition if you do not have time? Well, first of all, as it turned out, I had enough time for the preparation. And secondly, everything needed was collected apart from these letters with references because they required more time to get them. And thirdly, what's the point of applying for participation in the competition? I even remember when there was a conversation about some separate procedure of participation in the competition for service members, so that the service members could take part in these competitions. Why not? But there are still some limitations. I cannot ignore them. If you need references, I will provide them. No. The question was why there are none, and you've explained. Thank you. In the integrity declaration for 2023, in clause 28, I did not commit activities which resulted in my legal liability, and you put, I do not confirm. This declaration was filed for the first time, and it concerns information submitted for the entire lifetime. So, have you ever been brought to any legal type of liability? I had a parking fine in 2021. And I had a fine. I submitted the declaration of an individual entrepreneur in a non-timely manner. That fine was about 300 hryvnias. When was it? Which year? With respect to the declaration, I cannot tell you. The parking fine was in 2021 for sure. I do not even remember where I parked in the city of Dnipro. They put the sign, and I do not know. Okay. Why didn't you mention that information in section 14 of the candidate's application? Because I did not have anything from them left.
Від кого у вас нічого не лишилось?
Ну, документів
From
ніяких.
whom? I did not have any documents. I cannot provide reports, etc. Now you are saying that you were brought to liability. You remember that it was in 2021. Yes, I had it. But in the integrity declaration, you put a mark
Така обставина існувала.
that this fact created. What's about the publication? What's the difference? You can put 2021. I don't remember the specific date. Could you have done that? Maybe I misunderstood that I had to provide accurate data there. Even we had some meeting in 2025 in the city of Dnipro before announcement of the competition. And there they were saying that it's necessary to provide some more specific data. I did not have time to request them and I did not keep that. And that's why I did not specify there anything. Okay, understood. My next question. You're taking part also in the selection of the position of the judge, right? Yes. What is your priority? Anti-corruption court judge of the first instance? Of the local court? Of general court? Or which court?
Цікаве питання.
Interesting question.
Я радий, що я поставив цікаве запитання.
Так, це дуже цікаве питання. Дякую вам.
Thank you.
Цікаво було б, мабуть, все ж таки
Probably it would be interesting.
Суміщати не можна.
Я знаю.
It's not possible to combine that. I know.
Коли я подавав документи на
When I was submitting documents for the local court, I was interested in the local commercial court. But then this competition was announced. Probably they are equally interesting for me, and I'm fine basically with both of them. Because the commercial court is what was my main specialization since the university time. But the anti-corruption court is something new and more probably professionally promising, probably.
Дякую за відповідь.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
Відповідаючи на
While answering
питання
questions
пана Роберта, я зазначив,
of Mr. Robert, you said that you planned to join the deputies group, that you agreed to become later on a member of the deputies group that your friends suggested to establish, right? Yes. Was it based on some political convictions and beliefs that you agreed to join this political group? No, not because of political beliefs, but in the interest of somehow positively influencing the life of the town. Based on the event, we had this destruction of our square. It became obvious that they did not trust to the public. They did not pay attention. No matter how much we how much we demanded to do that normally, we even had such a situation that they were laughing into our faces. And I will not tell you about all of that. And the idea was that we would somehow change the path. Like, if I become a member of city council, so that we could start listening to people. Talk a lot. And how wide that cost 140 million. A similar project in the town of, if I'm not mistaken, was about 50 million. By the way, it's very close to the work in the anti-corruption court. We wanted to in the future do some plans that in the future. Okay, next question. On November 21, you bought waters of 8 year approximately $7,430. According to data of the sale platform Авторія, for 2025, the average sale price of this model and mark of the car was $8,000. That's a question from the civil society. Not significantly, but the price is a bit higher. I'm interested in another matter. What is the source of origin of funds to buy this car? My wife and I were setting aside money to buy the car, just like for the house. And then we started gradually accumulating these funds for the car. Since when? Probably when we bought the house since 2013. Since 2013. And you had enough funds to make these savings. We borrowed a bit as well. You can see that my wife got a good salary then. When she did become the prosecutor? In 2021, directly before buying the car. And what was the amount? We borrowed approximately $3,000. As of now, has this debt been repaid? Yes. At the expense of the fact that my wife got salary, we just repaid it quickly. Understood. Actually, when we found this car and she said, I will be appointed, I will also have my salary, let's repay it quickly, and that's it. Let's buy it. That's why I bought it in Chernivtsi, because it was a bit cheaper there. Okay, thank you. When were you mobilized? In 2022, on the 2nd of November. To the Territorial Recruitment Center? Yes. Actually, I was offered. I graduated from the military faculty, and the officer's position became free related to the work of the law. And how were you offered that? How offered? Look, in March 22, for the first time, when they met me in the streets, they get me the conscription notice. I passed the medical commission. They told me, wait for a call. In October, and I was met by this group giving me the notice. I showed the document, and they were saying, half a year, come again. I came again. How to put it correctly? With officers, it's slightly different from the work with soldiers and sergeants. There's positions there. Okay, what's your military specialty? My military specialty, is it related to legal? No. My first, right now, yes. No, the one that you had in your, no, the first one was to mechanize. But you were offered position of the legal specialist. Yes, actually, yes. The officer's position. It happened then that one lawyer resigned, one was resigning, and the officer who was the former military prosecutor was transferred to the brigade, some brigade. And actually, the Territorial Recruitment Center was without a lawyer. Okay, understood. And with respect to your skills for work in the anti-corruption court, I will ask a question. Since you said that you did not watch any previous interviews, so probably I will ask the previous question that I asked to the previous candidate. Are the materials attached to the notification on committal of the crime the evidence in the understanding of Article 384 of the CPC? Attached to the application, yes, the person is submitting a notification on committal of a crime and is attaching some materials to confirm the words from this notification. We can see what materials are and how they were attached to the criminal proceeding. How they were attached along with the notification of the crime committal. What's then? Again, I need to look at this material. Probably I would accept that as the evidence, being a judge. I would look at this, what are these materials. Let's put it as follows. Recognition of these materials as the evidence or not recognition as the evidence. Does it depend on the quality of these materials or on the procedural actions committed with respect to them? Probably from committed procedural actions. So what should be the procedural action committed in order to recognize them as the evidence? The ruling of the investigator on what? On recognition as the evidence, as an option. Again, we need to see investigators can attach documents through different manners. Just there is a legal position of the Supreme Court regarding that. That should be used as the governing position. Maybe I just don't know that. Okay, then. And with respect to the subject matter jurisdiction of the Anti-Corruption Court, what can you say? Which cases are in the jurisdiction of the Anti-Corruption Court? These are criminal proceedings. There is a list of
Criminal cases, corruption-related cases, that is, then the issue of whether sanctions can be applied according to the law on sanctions, and unjustified assets cases. And where is the list of criminal offenses? I cannot give you the answer. I don't object, don't oppose the fact that I haven't worked that much in the anti-corruption area so that I could give you a list of all the criminal offenses. I'm not asking you to cite the articles. Which norm of the law contains that list of criminal cases? So you're a judge. And then the defense says, it's your jurisdiction. So I open the criminal code, I check the jurisdiction of the hack, I check the articles, because there are additional criteria defined by the code, and I determine whether this case is in line with the cited article mentioned in the criminal procedural code, whether it could be subjected to the hack jurisdiction. Colleagues, any questions? Roman? Hi, you said that you had savings in late 2021. Is this correct? Or in 2020? In late 2021. I bought my car in November 2021. Yeah. So if we take your wife's declaration, the savings were 67,000 hryvnia, $2,000 US. 11,000, that's what she declared in her declaration in 2020. Are we talking about this declaration? Because you had said that there were savings. Which year is it? 2021? I'm looking at your wife's declaration as per 2020. And you pointed out correctly that she was appointed to her position in 2021 and she submitted her declaration of 2020. The question is, what are your average spendings per year? Average annual spending. I cannot give you a number. So you are living on a really tight budget, on a moderate budget, or on a more or less relaxed budget, or standard Ukrainian citizen budget from your region. I think standard budget
Мені, я кожен рік, ось коли витрачаю
So,
своє грошове
annually,
забезпечення, ще мені там
when
кілька
I spend my military
не
salary,
вистачає, і я залажу
military
на
wages,
кредитку,
I
вона так
still
накопичується, а потім
have
виплачується так
some
вже
needs,
кілька років.
and
Виплачується оздоровчий, за їх
I
рахунок я закриваю.
have a credit, and I make use of those credit costs. If we take my wife's salary, around 30,000 salary, and my military wages, we get around 60 to 70,000 per month, and we have to pay utilities and our apartment. So actually, we spend all the salary that we earn in a month. No questions about 22, 23, because I understand you have your military wages. I'm more interested in your financial state when you purchased your car. When talking about your spendings, there is a discrepancy around 60,000 hryvnia compared to the average spending. If we don't take the minimum living standard, because you're not living on a minimum living standard. In Dnipropetrovsk, it's around 145,000. The average living standard. So, could you explain the source of that income? Even if we add the loan to that, it wouldn't make it. It should make it. Should equal that sum. We actually spent a lot on repairs of our house. But in fact, in 2020, we made repairs in our kitchen, and that was it. We didn't do anything else. Probably over that period, we somehow accumulated that money. 2021, we didn't have any other sources of income. I'm asking because there is an issue about the discrepancy. So you answered, and that is enough. Yaroslav, please. Thank you for this opportunity to ask a question, member of the Commission Melnik. So, regarding your car, I heard that you had explained that the costs that were lacking, you loaned them. You lent it from your relatives. When and what was the sum? So before going to buy the car, my wife's sister lent us 3,000 or 3,500 what? Dollars, US dollars. Because we all understand that in the purchase agreement, we state the amount in hryvnias. In the note, dollars are stated because the seller wants to get dollars, foreign currency. How much was it in Ukrainian hryvnias? How much was it? Around 25. Around 80,000, 90,000. So it seems. Okay. And how did you reflect that loan in your declaration? So we actually returned that loan very quickly. I don't remember what we reflected that in the declaration. So we did our best to return it as soon as possible. When my wife took office, she took office in December 2021. That's right. So it's December, late 2021, the end of the year. So she got her first salary, 52,000 hryvnias. So if we take the end of the year, whether you return the loan in December or next year, how was it? In early 2022, we returned it in early 2022. Okay, respectively, by the end of 2021, that loan was there. Why wasn't it reflected in either your declaration or your wife's declaration? Because she already was an employee at the prosecutor's office. I don't remember whether it is reflected or not. You don't remember, and I can help you out. I'm looking at your declaration. I'm looking at your wife's declaration. That loan is not declared in either declaration. So there are some options for you to answer, but you need to know something about anti-corruption legislation. Is it a position of yours to not reflect such amounts in the declaration? And here we can quote anti-corruption law. Or is it a mistake? I think it must have been a mistake. It is not a hardened position of mine. But if we look, we could find different situations similar to this in the National Anti-Corruption Agency database. I'm not ready to provide you an answer. Okay. So the general rule is, if the loan that you have got is not returned, it should be reflected unless it exceeds 50 minimum living standards. It did exceed $1,000. Did it exceed 50 minimum living standards or not? It may not have exceeded. I don't remember what minimum living standard was. Look, in my question, apart factual circumstances, there are questions related to anti-corruption legislation, and I haven't heard any clear position from you on the subject. All right. Let us assume that it did not exceed 50 minimum living standards, and therefore it was not reflected. Then it is not a mistake, it is a position. When we reviewed, when we submitted the declaration, we reviewed all those circumstances, and we believe that we did the way we were required to. It is possible that we did not reflect it because it did not exceed 50 minimum living standards. It really happened long ago, and I don't really remember what it was about and why we failed to reflect it in the declaration. All right, thank you. I've got a general question. As we heard from you multiple times, you wished to be a local council deputy, and you said that it happened under your friend's influence and almost against your will you did so. You ran for the position in the local council, and you did so on behalf of the political party you were not interested in. Will you be firm once you become the Hague judge when it comes to the third party's influence on your actions. I didn't say that that happened against my will. I said that personally, I have not been interested in a political career. So you are repeating yourself. Could you answer my question? Of course, it was under my friend's influence, but not against my will. It was an idea that my friend suggested it, and I liked it because it was in line with my will. And the rest of my response covered the political career. That is a different issue. So will you be able to oppose the third party's influence? Yes, I will. And when exercising the profession of an attorney, you are supposed to observe the professional ethics. Are you familiar with this? And on multiple times during the interview, you mentioned that when submitting a claim about moral harm, you said that moral harm was a threatening influence on the rapporteur. Is it admissible in an attorney's practice? It was not threatening. There is a certain strategy of leading a case. So a strategy is one thing. When an attorney submits, files a claim, they are obliged to abide by the law. And there were no circumstances to demand moral harm, then why did you do that? So there were circumstances, there were reasons, there were grounds to demand compensation of moral harm. But money wouldn't have compensated moral harm. Some tangible changes in the project would have. And I mentioned my demands of compensation for moral harm. And I filed that claim in my name because it was important for me to reach a positive outcome in that case. So it was your strategy, I got it. It was not threats, it was a strategy. Well, next question. Can a claim be called a strategy? Can particulars of claim be considered strategy? Particulars of a claim, if we're talking about professional attorney, the particulars of claim are indicated on the basis of the proof that shows that particulars of claim is justified, rather than to instill the client with a belief that they will win the case or something. It may be just one claim, and the client values it. It's important for them. But also the client may have a hierarchy of values. Okay, I got your answer. But the way you explained your understanding of compensation for moral harm and the understanding of particulars of claim, you can watch your interview on YouTube to understand how the outer listener can take it. No questions, colleagues.
Тоді в межах однієї хвилини надається вам слово. Можливо, ви хочете повідомити щось, що ще не повідомили.
Then you have 1 minute to inform the Commission and the PCA if you haven't informed it yet. I want to say thank you to the Commission for the fact that you have called me one more time to come to the city of Kyiv So it helped me to change my environment and make me happy. Yeah, I'm fully aware that maybe I do not correspond to your requirements regarding the judge of the higher anti-corruption court, at least because I didn't have such experience before. But yeah, I'm so grateful to you because participation in this competition was a very, wide part of my current life, a bright part of my current life. So thank you for paying attention to my dossier, and I'm grateful for any of your decisions. So thank you. We are also grateful to you for your participation in the interview. The interview is over. I wish you all the best.